What's going on, guys? Welcome on in. Happy Monday, October 21st. We are live. We're back. And we have a little bit of an all-time high kind of going on here with NVIDIA. So I figured I'd start there. I actually am in a trade on this. I traded it earlier today on a 5-minute time frame, got stopped out, and then I'm in an additional trade on it. I'm not sure if I want to make the recap just yet. I might wait on the recap, but we'll see. We'll see. So at a minimum, there'll be a recap coming on the NVIDIA trade or trades. Depends upon how I want to put it. If I want to package them into one or whatnot. Depends on what happens with it, really. The thought process, though, here is interesting. We don't have earnings until November 14th. So there's that. You have a couple earnings coming out this week, but next week is the bigger earnings week. Tesla's this week, which comes out on Wednesday. AMD, is it AMD this week? No, AMD is next week. AMD kind of had that signal or that look of a false breakdown today. I didn't want to short. I just have been not sketched out. I kind of sketched out by the short side. I just haven't seen them work. So I'm like, I don't want to short until I start seeing some of this stuff work. And then you just, you zoom out on it and you say, well, yes, it is coming down the past couple of days. Yes. But in a bigger picture uptrend here, even a bigger picture uptrend there, and then just a bigger picture kind of chop. So I don't know if it doesn't fit my strategy. I don't know. It doesn't fit my strategy. Yeah, you can go to the shorter time frames and see it kind of does, but I don't know. I was like, I'm just not a huge fan. So that's why I avoided that, but I just marked some lines, and it seemingly kind of looked like it was going to break down earlier, and now it's reversing right back. Not to mention NVIDIA going to all-time highs, new all-time high. The question that I have, and this is kind of the setup that I'm looking at, is can NVIDIA go to all-time highs by a decent margin, maybe push up towards the 150 level is kind of my thoughts. Can we get there this week? If we do, then maybe we'll make some money. If we don't, then depends on what it does, and maybe we'll lose money. We'll see how it goes. So that's kind of my bet based off the breakout of this little consolidation from the past. I guess that was last week in Thursday, Friday. Broke out of that consolidation. You kind of knew it was coming based on how strong it has been. From what I was looking at, like basically, it's just been strong. And you knew as it started to kind of build these higher lows, you're like, yeah, it's probably, going to get back up there soon. And so now it was kind of like the inevitable based on how strong it's been. Now, of course, you never know, right? But we're just kind of playing off of what has been and why fight what has been working or what the market's been wanting to do these past couple of years now, right? I personally do not like fighting it, but people will try. I used to try. I just no longer do so. So we'll see what's going on. What's going on, guys? What's going on? Flippa's on a couple. He's got a couple accounts. He's got the Logan Flips account, I believe. He's got the Flippa account, but then he had Flip of the Ship. He's got a couple, man. He could be scamming us here. Who knows if that's even him? Could just be some random guy. For all we know. But yeah, so here's the trade. I can do the recap now, I guess. But I'll make an official video on this event at some point. But like essentially here we had the break above this area. It looked really good. I mean, you had this nice push this morning. We had this consolidation for about 15-20 minutes. And then you had this really good volume here. As this candle broke above that level, I entered, kind of tried to get going. It actually went a little bit higher a few minutes later, and then it just had, sorry. So that was the trade idea. Didn't work. And also at the same time, I was like, I was literally just thinking this morning, I was like, okay, well, basically I'm just north of break even on 5-minute setup trade or 5-minute time frame trades this year. I'm substantially above break even on 4-hour time frame, 1-hour time frame, and then the 1 hour. I think the 1 hour and 30-minute time frame I might be a little bit red, or I've only had a couple trades on those, so there's not a lot of data there. So I was thinking, the 15-minute time frame was, but I don't have much trading on those time frames. I prefer the 5-minute, and then you move from the 5-minute up to the 1 hour, 4 hour, and 1 day, 1 week. I prefer really even the 4 hour and up from there. But I was thinking like, well, how can I, is there like, should we completely nix the day trades? So this is the first day trade. Now, of course, this is just one-off trade. I was like, whatever. is there a reason to completely nix the day trades and say, no, we just don't do that anymore because the data tells me that it's not worth my time based off of how much time I'm putting in for the amount of money that I'm making. I make more money elsewhere, right? Why would I keep doing that? So you're just kind of continuing to kind of refine the strategy little by little. And then I thought to myself, well, I think it might be more worthwhile. I think that the bigger question, which I can go deeper back and look through some of this data as well, the deeper question might actually be, or is not necessarily, should we stop day trading on the 5-minute? It's, could we be more selective with those day trades on the 5-minute, and would that make us more money? You know what I'm saying? So with that, what I'm thinking, like, okay, maybe I drop the amount of day trades that I took this year going into next year in half or even less. Like I take a third of the amount of trades just because I'm being more selective and I'm looking for extra criteria before I take them. If I were to do that, would that give me better results? So I think that's probably, I'm going to look through the data soon, or as the year ends. We got a month and a half to go. I'll look through a lot of this to see if I can have a sense on this, or see if there's enough data to kind of go off of. But I think the idea will probably be focusing on the bigger time frames, as the data has been telling me, but then drastically dropping off the 5-minute trades only on certain occasions. And one of the occasion that I would want it to be would be a situation exactly like this. I'm like, this one literally, I can't say that I was doing dumb shit. Like, no, it literally just didn't work. You have a push to new all-time highs. There's literally no resistance that we are aware of as of right now. I mean, obviously you can look at different things, blah, 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 whatever. Based on the chart, there's no resistance above where it's at. It's like it's unknown. Right? We're uncharted territories. You have a consolidation as this blue line is the all-time high. We consolidate right at all-time highs, essentially, and then break that consolidation. The thought process is absolutely a great play for a potential push higher, right? You're in breakout mode. Just didn't work. Versus trying to do versus if I got this 5-minute setup, but we were not at all-time highs, or we were not at a crucial level, or we were not breaking out of a consolidation on the higher time frames. If we were kind of just like in here, you know what I mean? Or like just kind of like in here, that avoiding, I think, avoiding the trade situations in these areas on the bigger time frames, even though the 5-minute time frame might sound good or might look good based on my strategy, right? I think avoiding that, so trimming down the amount of trades, I think it will cut it by more than half. I think going into next year, the amount of day trades, and I'm curious to see how that will pan out. So that's something that I think I'm going to be doing into next year. I've already kind of been doing that the past couple months anyway, past couple weeks anyway, because I just haven't really been very interested in the day trade side. A, I just haven't seen setups, and also B, I've been a little bit more, based on seeing that data, I've been a little more patient for, stuff to be interesting, whereas like, you can look around and say, well, would I trade Tesla in here? Absolutely not. That's just not doing shit. Meta, there was opportunities maybe up in here, but not right now. I missed those. Microsoft, no. Inside of there is chop, so like there's not Google, just no. Inside of here, we're not clearly making moves. We're not breaking out of anything. We're not breaking down or up out of this consolidation. So there's nothing there, so there hasn't been a lot as it is to try to trade. So I've kind of just been using that as like a excuse to be like, yeah, I'm just going to not do anything. Not even like, not as an excuse, but just that's the reason why I'm not doing much. Bitcoin, I entered a trade on Bitcoin literally last week, which I am still in. It got, my stop loss is actually like just underneath here, which is crazy how close it got. I think I'm probably going to get stopped out. This looked pretty good as it broke out to finish off last week. And then it kind of didn't do anything all weekend, which is not surprising. We just had no volume. And then it kind of popped up yesterday. And I was like, oh, shit, here we go. Looks pretty good. And then it got kind of hammered today. Now, will that follow through tomorrow? We'll see. I suspect it's going to lose. But my risk was pretty small relative to my usual sizing. So I kind of sized for that, fuckery, as I believed we had a better chance of that, of the upper wicks and lower wicks with Bitcoin. But I also gave it a good amount of, breathing room. So if it, had a little bit of a, wiki action and then it wanted to kind of go, I think we're okay. So maybe it holds up, maybe not. I don't really care. It doesn't really matter at this point to me. Silver, we're in. This is a weekly swing though, so I am in this, but I'm looking for a move up towards, I believe, 37. I think I'm pretty sure it's my target, somewhere up there. So this one I got. I mean, I'm sitting back on time here. I'm no rush. I don't really care. I don't expect it to do anything really anytime soon. So that's really it. Other than that, there's something else that I've been seeing that looks really good. I was looking at the different sector ETFs earlier. Not much craziness going on there at all. You have XRT, which does look pretty good, bigger picture, but not right now. XLV pulling back. XLU, everything's kind of pulling back. Real estate pulling back. XLP. XLI, I have an alert there if that breaks out, but nothing crazy there. All these did pretty well last week or the past couple weeks. So TOT getting nailed. I guess the 10-year is up a lot today, right? Yeah, it's up 2.5%. Jeez. So that's actually like officially breaking out of the downtrend, you can say, because it kind of had a little bit of a reaction at the trend line, and now it's like actually breaking out of the downtrend for sure. That's the only thing I would say is the concern for gold and silver, or the silver trade. You've got pretty strong action on the dollar for now. It doesn't seem like it matters that much, but that probably, can't hold up. Like this can't go back up to here, and we can't really, I wouldn't expect silver to be pushing higher and higher and higher every day. You know what I mean? If that's going to happen. But extremely strong bounce. I mean, if you are a range guy, I mean, you're loving the past couple weeks, I think. You got a lot of ranges. It's funny because, I saw some people talking, or, everyone has their own opinion, and I don't really try to let this stuff influence me at all. I just let the market do what it's going to do. But people are saying, yeah, election years, we tend to get really good action, trending action, huge, all this shit. So far, going into this one, I don't see it. I'll be honest, I don't see it yet. Maybe we get some good days, but I mean, the days, I have to say, have not been very trendy. A lot of choppy, not a lot of trendy these days. So I don't know. Like, this is not what, if someone says we get like trend days, this is not a trend day by any means on the S&P. So, but we'll see. You never know. I mean, that can change on a dime. So. Apple and AVRE. Apple, yeah, I mean, Apple, it's trying to go. It's trying to go. It really is. It's at this point in time, it's like earnings in a week, like a week and a half. Maybe it pops off, but then does it hold up there? I'd be skeptical if it about it holding up. So I wouldn't be surprised if it just kind of chops around, which is unfortunate. It had a chance to do it, I thought, last week, but then it just kind of fizzled. But that's kind of what we've been seeing. So I'm hopeful, though, at a minimum, that if it is the election catalyst that is causing the chop, I don't know, maybe it is. If that is the case, I'm very hopeful that in 3 weeks we start getting some really awesome action, whether that's up or down. I don't care. I am ready to go in either direction. But I'm hopeful that we start getting some good stuff. Because, it's been kind of boring. And I have to say, my P&L has been pretty stagnant, choppy-wise. I mean, like, you get the experience, but the past, since, like, I don't know. Let's go to this year's date right now. It has not really done, I mean, really since we had May. Since, like, May, I'm kind of at the same spot. Did we go a little bit higher there? Yeah, I think we briefly did. Yeah, back in about a month ago, I hit a high watermark, but it's been choppy, man. It's just been really choppy the past couple months, really since the summer began and into now. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not bad. It's not like amazing. It's technically higher lows, I guess, kind of. But I mean, it's like I just have felt like, man, it's been a bad win rate year, I think, is what I'm trying to get at. Like, if I were to go to the first half of the year, and I go through, would that be through June, right? Yeah, through June 30th. So from January 1st to June 30th, my win rate was 44%, which is nothing amazing, but that's better. And then if you go from January or from June 30th, let me just go to like out to now, right? And I go out to now, and I go back to like June, or should I go July 1st? I should go July 1st, right? Yeah. Which is a Monday. My win rate's been 34%. So my win rate's been so much worse. So see, look at that. Like the period that I'm talking about, that second half of this, well, since July, we're up 450, which is like, for the sizing that I have, is not much. Like realistically, that's one trade. That's like positive, like that's one winner. You know what I mean? Based on the sizing that I've been playing with right now, which has also gone up a bit over the past couple months, little by little. But that's like, really, So that's just been the situation, and that's what I've had to deal with. So I'm feeling that like I'm ready for something to break here, and us to break out of this kind of meh. Part of it's me, I think, but part of it also is, I think, the nature of the market, and it's not aligning super nice. Earlier this year, there were some months that we didn't have. There was a month or two that were not great, but then there are some pretty good months that I was able to kind of capitalize well. I haven't felt like we had, because there were periods of time, if I go back to back in May, I believe, like May as an example, and that's what they say sometimes, is just like 1 month makes your year. That's kind of what May kind of was, I feel like, because May made without May, if you take May away, it's not a great year. It's barely above, break even, I would think. But I think the year's not over. But I mean, like that was a month where it legitimately felt like I could not lose. And of course, like you get into that, and how much was mental going into June, I don't know. But I think I've been pretty level-headed. I haven't been super crazy, to be honest, like I maybe used to be, in letting this stuff get to me or thinking too much about it. I don't tend to think too much about this stuff. I keep it pretty simple. But yeah, I haven't felt like that based off just taking the same trades. I have not felt like, oh, I can't lose. Like, like there would be like 3, 4, 5 in a row. Boom, boom, boom. I have a little loss here. Okay, no big deal. The next one, come back, win. Like that's how May was. And then it was just, ever since then, it's been chop. It's been a lot more losses than wins, but making more money on the winners than losses. So it ends up netting a slight positive because I'm managing risk really well, which is great. But at the same time, it is frustrating because you're like, oh man, if we just had if we just put together a couple weeks or a couple months in a row, man, we have some decent action, or action that's somewhat similar to May, and we would have a really good year. But that's that's part of the game. Part of the game. Makes sense. Yeah, I mean I think the second half that's been the story. But the way that I kind of view it, and maybe that will change one day. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it to change that. The way I kind of view it is like, rather than trying to change my strategy for it to adapt to these conditions, I rather would just trade the same strategy and then learn how to pull back in times like this, which I kind of have been, and then learn how to press the pedal a bit more in times when it's good. It's like when we get that May kind of action again, like identifying that and then rolling with that and just kind of being dialed in, and boom, you don't know when it's going to end, but we have it right now. So let's roll with it. Doesn't mean doing dumb shit. Doesn't mean sizing up dramatically. Doesn't mean any of that stuff. It just means that, like, okay, let's focus in here. Like, we're getting good setups. Like when you see one, take it. Like don't be sitting back and being lazy and being, oh, I missed those today. Like, no, just focus in. Like this is the time to actually focus in. And that's kind of the way that I would view it, or that I view it, going forward. And especially the other piece to the puzzle too, I think, from the trading side of things, I think is massive, which, you don't really think about, or no one talks about until you kind of get into it and you start feeling it. But sizing. So like as you size up, you can wait. Like, your ability to be more patient, I think, increases. And that might kind of sound weird, but no, because when you are trading with, let's say, $100,000 or $200,000 in an account, if I go and I make a 1% trade today, for example, which is not a crazy, if I risk 1% to make 2, or if I risk 0.5% of my account to make 1, I'm looking to make $1,000 to $2,000 on that trade. Like, that becomes a lot more meaningful, and I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care. Like, I don't feel like, oh, I have to trade every day. No, if I can wait for the good setups and I can get that, and you can make a couple $1,000s on the side as a side income almost, right? That's pretty freaking sick. So your ability to be more patient, I think, increases once you or as you size up. Because think about it, when you're on like a $10,000 account or $1,000 account or whatever, you feel like, oh well, if I keep trading, I'm risking a couple percent of my account to make a couple percent of my account, or if I'm risking 0.5% to make 1%, this is not that much money in the grand scheme. So you think more trades equals more money. What ends up happening is you take worse quality trades, and then your win rate drops dramatically. So you end up making less money or losing more money, most likely losing more money. And then the whole point is kind of screwed. So that's kind of the view. And that's also, I think, part of what plays into the whole game of like, the more money you have, the easier it is, as they say, because it's part of it is psychological, and then part of it is like your experience. You can kind of go into that, like you probably had to amass that money, or you bought a prop firm account. That's also a fair way to go about it too. But will you be able to keep that account? Probably not. If it's your first time, if you just jump from $0 to $200,000, it's like, well, you're probably not going to keep that, I would say. This weekend, believe it or not, I got my vote in. I am a Georgia voter. Early voting done, so I don't have to deal with that shit. It was good because going to the early voting place, there's no one there. It was a Sunday morning. There was like 2 people there. Like, you walk in, do your thing, select your candidates on the screen, print it out the paper, they put it in the scanner, and then it's done. Now, do I trust that it's actually being counted? I have no idea. But if I didn't vote, then it would never count. If I vote, maybe it counts. That's terrible to say, but I don't know. Yeah, it's funny when you go in. I'm curious. Depending on where you go, I don't think it's where like the county or the area. I guess not county. The area, the county is also the county technically includes Atlanta, even though I'm not really that close to Atlanta, like at all. Fulton County, but the areas that you vote or whatever. It is very interesting, the type of people who are there at early voting. And it's like, this seems like they seem very, very one-sided in terms of which way they lean. I don't know. I'm just like, it's weird. I was like, I don't know. I just felt like people were watching me, and like when you make your selections and then you kind of like have to walk it over, they're like looking at your shit and like, fuck you. Like, I don't know what you're looking at, what you want, but leave me alone. I just want to put my shit in and get out of here. I feel like it's one of the. I didn't vote. I haven't voted in a presidential. This is the first one that I'm voting in. I didn't vote in the last one. I didn't vote in 2016. Yeah, I was 18. I turned 18 in 2016. I think, right? Yeah, I was 18 in 2016, so I could have, right? I think I could have. Would you have to be 21? No, I think it has to be 18. I was 18 in 2016. I didn't vote in that one because I felt like I was not informed enough in that one. I was like, Trump. I was like, I don't know who that is. Like, I knew who that was, but I was like, is he a like political guy? Like, I don't know. And I was like, Hillary. I don't know. Like, obviously, I kind of know, but I was like, I don't know if I really want to vote for Hillary. So I was like, I'm just not gonna vote. I don't know what's going on here. And then 2020, I was like, I don't feel comfortable really voting for either side in this situation. So then I was like, no. And then this year, I have a pretty darn good. I feel pretty confident in not confident in who's gonna win. I don't know. I guess you can look to this to see that. Which currently the chances are Trump, but I feel really solid about who I voted for. You know. I feel like I have a much better grasp on what I believe is most important, and then why I'm making this selection. So I don't know if that's the right way to go about it. Some people will say yes. I think it's a pretty good way. I think it's pretty respectable. Yeah, maybe your civic duty. I didn't fulfill that the past 2 times, and I didn't vote in any primaries or any other shit. I don't know, but I felt like this one's a pretty important one for a lot of reasons, and I think it was a good time to make the play. So, but I also think that this time, at least in my opinion, I think you have like all the other piece would be too, like not that you know you need to make fucking arguments, and I don't care, you know, whoever you want to vote for, you vote for. That's your call. But like I have more of like I can actually, like, if someone was to say, hey, why did you vote for this person? Like, oh yeah, like here's like the reasons why. It's not like, oh, I don't know, or I hate this person. It's not like, oh, fuck that person, I like this person more, that's why I'm voting. Which, like, there's no one saying you can't vote that way. You could, but I just don't think that that's really even also the best way to go about it too. Personally, I think you should look a little bit deeper than that as to, you know, the policies, the things that are going to potentially happen, or that one person, you know, has done versus the other, you know, and what they say, how much you want to believe what they say, who they're going to potentially appoint, and, you know, who they're going to have involved, you know, all that stuff plays into it. So, and of course, it's all, a lot of it's lies, like we talked about before. Like, it's a lot of it's lies. They just lie to you now to secure your vote so that you can then, you know, they win, and then once they're in, they're like, yeah, fuck you, we're do whatever we want, you know, which is kind of what ends up happening, I feel like, anyway. But, you know, just gotta make the best call. SoFi's crushing lately still. Bullish on Nvidia, yeah, I actually am in it. Short term, yes. I'm in it right now. I lost on a day trade today on it, but which is funny because it, you know, ends up going pretty much towards where I'm looking for. This is the earlier trade. I gotta do a recap on that after the stream, but yeah, I'm curious to see if we can get this push through. It just broke through all-time highs. The all-time high was, you know, in the past like 141, something like that. So you broke through all-time highs. You kind of had a consolidation, if you want to call this a consolidation, you know, area. I guess Thursday and Friday was right here. You broke that consolidation. You've got, how's the volume looking today? Let's take a look at the daily chart volume. See how it closes by the end of the day. But volume is not looking, well, it's better than Friday for sure. It's probably going to be a decent volume day. Now, it doesn't look like it's going to be insane. It's okay. But I'm curious if we can get a push up towards the 150 zone, which would be like up into here. Does it have to go there tomorrow? No. Nvidia's it could move pretty fast. So I'm thinking kind of like this week. Can we tag the 150 area this week? If we can, that would be pretty cool. That would be, you know, a good sign for momentum. So that's the idea behind it. But yeah, if we start to come and fall underneath, you know, 138, which is today's low, that would be kind of the invalidation in my view. Underneath 138, and I'd say, yeah, you know, better luck next week, or, you know, week after that, or, you know, whatever. See what it does, builds a higher low, and then maybe bounces. Who knows? But that's kind of the thoughts. So we'll see if it can get there, if it can go. They don't have earnings for a while, about a month, so you don't have to worry about that. Next week, you have to worry about a lot of other stocks with earnings, like Apple and stuff, but this week is Tesla. I guess I can pull up the list, but this week is Tesla and a couple names. Netflix is last week, so that's kind of out the way. But if you had to worry about earnings, I would not trade that. I would not be holding it. But because you don't have to worry about earnings for a while on Nvidia, I think you're okay. AMD, because AMD and Nvidia will kind of play off each other sometimes. AMD has earnings not this week, but next Tuesday. So the Nvidia trade, I would think, you know, either will hit target or stop by then anyway. So probably wouldn't want to hold it over the weekend anyway. Could, depends on how it looks. So we'll see. But we're just kind of, I'm sitting back on it, and we'll see if we can get up towards 150. Yeah, that's the whole piece with the whole government. When you get into the Senate and shit and House, they always they hate each other. No matter who wins, everyone hates each other. It's like, we gotta just freaking stop with all that stuff, because then I think it's done, you know. SoFi looks really strong. My brother is, you know, he's always texting me about it. He's like, yeah, look at SoFi. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I hear you. I am actually every month paying them hundreds of dollars in interest. Yeah, so I'm funding this run on SoFi right now. No, but in all reality, they have earnings in about a week and a little over a week, 29th, next Tuesday. This is approaching the highs of, I mean, more than the past year. Like this is essentially the 52-week high that we're approaching, or we barely made today. So it's really interesting. It is, though, big picture, like that's the top, kind of towards the top of the range. How much do you trust this move? And like, not a lot of volume here, yes, but you have this area that we are now approaching, and then we got this area up around 1175 as the next two. At the same time, earnings bigger catalysts. So I think the bigger catalyst will be next Tuesday. And if that goes well, I think you can take those out pretty fast. If not, little gap to fill back here, maybe some movement to come back down towards the 750 area, this volume node kind of zone. That's what I would think. But it looks pretty good. It's just it's up a lot the past couple of weeks, so maybe it needs to chill. It kind of did, I guess last week had a couple of days, a little pullback, and then it kind of bounced right back. Remember ARC? I used to hold it. I no longer do. I mean, look at this though. Look at this. Look at this. Oh my goodness. Look at the volume. There is nobody here, relatively speaking. Like, look at that volume. Oh my gosh. That fell off huge over the past year. It has just been a steady decline over the past year. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. It depends how you view it, but there hasn't been, I think what that tells me is we have not had this return to risk on at all. So if we want to start talking about my thoughts based off of macro cycles and shit, which doesn't have to happen, but if we want to start talking about like bull market topping out and stuff, I think we need to see a run in the risk on, which we haven't seen. We got to see risk on run, and once risk on starts to run, the Russell goes to all-time highs, then I would say, okay, we've started to see, and there may be more legs behind that for who knows how long, but then I would say, okay, we've started to see, you don't have to get those things before a bear market occurs, but then I would say, okay, we've seen a lot here. We've seen a lot of shit play out. We saw, the bear market 2022. We saw the big bounces. We saw some massive, hundreds and hundreds of percent recoveries on some of these massive large caps like the Netflix play. You had Nvidia obviously go crazy, and there's many more where that came from. Crazy recovery moves, and now you're getting some of these small caps or mid caps or whatever you want to call them, risk on stocks that are now not necessarily going back to COVID levels, but making some big runs back up into the ballpark, where they were to some degree during COVID. Maybe not the highs by any means, but getting up into that ballpark again and getting into that conversation. When we start looking at those charts and going, hey, when we look left, wow, I see the COVID highs now, like within decent striking distance. Then I'd say, okay, could we break those? Yeah. But then I would think that that's, pretty good move. We had some pretty good stuff. Not saying that means, short. No, but that's like, okay, well, if we start to have a big pullback or correction here, wouldn't surprise. Will that lead to a bear market? I don't know. But it also wouldn't surprise. So it's more of just like probabilities. I say the probabilities, which substantially of a bear market or a substantial correction will substantially increase once risk on goes, crazy again, which it hasn't done. So, and really, if you were looking at ARC, now it had a little bit of wonkiness here in July and August, but if you kind of just disregarded this, which you can't, but if you did, it hasn't done like jack shit since April, pretty much. It's it's at the top of the range, but it's like, wow, hasn't moved very much at all. So lack of interest, people dumping it. Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising, and people want to jump on the bandwagon of the winners, and then it's. But what it just kind of continues to confirm to me, it's like you can get caught up in the macro and the bias and building out a thesis and all this stuff all you want, seriously. But what it gets to me, what it kind of brings it all back to is a little bit of logic, like, and a little bit of historical understanding about how things work, and knowing that, like, if you're buying ETFs, you're probably safer than stocks, but there are riskier ETFs than there are riskier ETFs, so there are safer ETFs. But there's opportunity from an investing perspective in the weakness, like everyone said, like Buffett says, whatever. But it's the same thing, especially when you look at the 10-year, especially when you look at crude oil, you look at, gold and silver, all that stuff. So from an investing side, what you would want to be looking at is what is still looking really freaking weak. That's, at least in my view, like the stuff that you want to be looking at no matter what, anytime you're looking to invest, anytime. So does the thought of, well, let me get into tech, NVIDIA? No, that's why I think the idea, and some will say that there's a lot of people right now, if you look at I don't know, let's pull it up. Like if you look at stocks like this or tech in general, they have a foot out the door, a foot in. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like you got a foot over here. You're kind of like I got some money on the table, but I don't have all of it, and I don't want to put all of my money in because I know we could easily pull back at any time. So like what do so that's how I think a lot of people are feeling. So can that continue to raise us, going to keep us, sending us higher? It could, absolutely could. But it's like at the same time, it's not like a super high conviction situation, right now, because I think everyone's fairly aware of valuations and this and that and stuff's extended. Yeah. But then it hasn't pulled back. And when will it pull back? Is there a catalyst? What's going to happen? And then, who knows? Some people will also say that if you look at this, it's pricing in the Trump victory, because as these numbers continue to kind of spread the past couple of weeks, like really substantially over the past 2 weeks, Trump has just taken a massive lead now based off this. Now, I don't know. And you can also go to the argument that, well, people who are voting with their dollars are more likely to be Trump supporters, potentially, right? More financially interested, savvy to some degree. So is that why he's leading on sites like this and the betting odds? Is that why Trump's leading? I don't know. Possibly. And then if this is, but at the same time, if he's leading and all this stuff, is then the market taking that and saying, ooh, Trump's probably going to win, so we might have a couple more, we might have some more legs to this market. We don't have to now think about dealing with the capital gains tax stuff that Harris was saying. We don't have to worry about that shit. And if we don't have to worry about that shit, why not stay in? Why can't this bull market go into year end at least, like into the seasonal strong period of time? Like that's the thought process. So I think that it's a very interesting time that will be very interesting to see how it plays out. Meanwhile, NVIDIA is continuing to push. That is now officially hitting my, target for the day that I wanted to on this trade, but the trade lost. But it's hitting the target that I wanted to get on the day. It just so happened to play or get there in a different direction. And it's tough because when you play these types of situations, I don't know, I didn't, looking back, there's nothing wrong with what I had done here. Yeah, it's not like, I could put my stop. No, not really. What I could have thought about it was maybe on a bigger time frame, which you go bigger time frames, and even that, yes, I could see it. I see it, and that's kind of what I decided to do on the back half of the day, was re-enter on the break of this period right here. And that's now looking pretty good. But the thought process really is this candle off the open is meaningful. That underneath that level is like the invalidation point. If we start to fall under that level, that tells me the momentum is done. It's over or for now. And we, step aside. So what it comes back to is, maybe is just, again, same thing. It's just a bigger time frame setups are where the money is at least for me, and how my strategy works. And I tend to find that the win rates are higher. I tend to find less choppiness when you can zoom it out like that. So we'll see. Again, we'll track that stuff going into next year. I'm going to try to do a good job of decently cutting down my day trading, being a lot more selective based on the upper time frames first, and then see how that goes. See how that goes over the next year. Again, I'm patient with the timing on that. I don't really care how long it takes. See how that goes, and then it's just a constant, refinement of the strategy. And then once we are the thought process is once we kind of really have a really good sense with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trades under this time frame versus that time frame, and then understanding all that stuff, then I feel really good about scaling it up substantially. You know, I'm kind of slowly doing so as it is now. Look at that move on NVIDIA, by the way. I'm kind of doing so, like little by little. My kind of sizing is just inching up a little bit here, a little bit there, you know, over the past couple months, over this year, as I consistently, you know, continue to prove profitability and stuff. I'm like, okay, well, you know, there's no reason that we have to keep trading with with smaller size. We can kind of inch it up. And then I've been doing so by just adding a prop firm and then adding the trade copier, so the trades copy on 2 different accounts. So that's kind of how it's been done. But the real big one will be, you know, I would think into next year, the potential for buying a couple $200,000 accounts, I think is pretty high if the stats, you know, continue to move in our direction. Although again, we could have a terrible next couple of months and that would postpone that. So we'll see, but that's a pretty strong move. The thoughts now is, do we get an overnight gap up on it? How does it go? How much does it gap up? What's going to happen? You know, we'll see how that plays out tomorrow. Long time rooms are less. Exactly. Robinhood futures are going to be hilarious. I mean, not hilarious. It's going to be cool. Very cool. But yeah, no, that's what it comes down to, and that's what the data tells me too in the bigger time frames. So the idea is just like, if you're going to day trade, you're day trading off of a shorter time frame setup. Yes. However, the bigger time frame has to also be giving you something. So that's kind of the idea behind the day trades going into next year. Drastically, you know, dropping them down, because there's a lot. I could probably go back and say, I don't know how many trades I had on the 5-minute this year, but well over 100. There's probably a very decent, at least, you know, 25 to 50% of those, I would say, in that ballpark of, yes, the setup was there on the 5-minute, but you zoom out and there was not as much clarity on the bigger time frames, and how I just, if I had more, well, not if I had, and going into next year, I'll have better data, but I won't, I don't really know, because I wasn't tracking anything like specific on that front. I was more so tracking the time frames. I wasn't tracking like the bigger picture. You know what I mean? So it's tough. You have to really go. It's a lot of work to go back through it, which I'm not opposed to doing it. But I think the easier, not the easier, but I think the approach in the meantime as well is just move forward with the different approach, knowing what I did this year, move forward into next year. We'll journal that for this year and stuff. We'll note that, and then move forward into next year with a slight twist, and that will just minimize the amount of trades that we take. And as the sizing kind of has been going up a little over time, the trades we take don't need to be as often anyway. And then will that net me a positive outcome into next year? I would suspect it would, but you never know. The VIX, that's going to be fun. I mean, for me, I've always had the SVIX, so I'm like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't really matter to me. But this, by the way, too, is really like seemingly being held down. I don't know. I mean, the VIX obviously is just generally elevated the past couple months, past couple weeks, I guess, since the August, massive spike. The whole Japanese situation, I guess that was the whole situation back in August. I bought SVIX in my Robinhood somewhere in here. I forget where, 20s, in the 20 area, I think around 20. And I sold it at like 30. But it ended up kind of coming back down towards lower 20s. And I was like, yeah, I wonder if it's going to be something to play. But I'm like, there's no point. You're not getting a VIX spike. So no. But it's, technically speaking, still pretty elevated despite the market going to all-time highs. So it's funny. You would think, okay, market's at all-time highs. This VIX you would have thought would be like, back up in here. The SVIX. We back up in here, up in the 40s. It's not. It's not at all. So that's another one of those, like, just, it's not easy money. It's not as easy as you think. Sometimes it seems like that, but this situation didn't pan out to be, very easy money. So that's a massive move, by the way, into the close on NVIDIA. It was trying to get towards the 143, it seemed like. And then once it hit 143, it said, fuck it out, we're going to 143.50. Maybe it wants more here, but that market's about to close in 20 seconds. So massive move. Good situation there. I'm holding the position that I have. I'm holding it overnight. I sized it with a risk down to 138. I don't intend to hold it all the way there if it did reverse on me, but I sized it just more so because of the overnight risk. I was like, if we gap down huge and let's say we hit we go down towards 138, I just want to make sure that my sizing is to the point where, like, if that occurs, it's okay. It's not like this is going to be a massive loss, anything that's bigger than what I'm, willing to take anyway. So that's kind of how I size it for, but I am thinking about a push towards 150. So let's see if we can get a big move with the ability to risk it down to 138. Chances are I would sell it before that. Chances are, maybe I won't. Depends what happens the rest of the week. Yeah, SVOL. Let's see. My brother was actually mentioning that because it's funny. He, it's pretty solid, and with the dividends too, not too bad. But he, actually now you think about it, not a terrible time to look at this. Not a terrible time to look at SVOL. For the cash flow, and maybe this thing floats it back up. At some point. But he's funny because he's making money now because he's working like a internship kind of thing, and so he took a semester off school to work, and so he's like, I got all this money coming in. He hasn't spent a lot of money. His rent's like $700 a month. He's literally rooming with a guy. He's got a room in a house. So he's like, he starts investing. He's putting his money into stuff. SoFi, he's all talking about. But I was telling him, like, dude, I'm telling you right now, he's 21. Like, I'm telling you right now, if you just simply said, fuck all that stuff. And he's got some good gains. He had Palantir. He's got SoFi. He had a little bit of NVIDIA. He's got some gains. I think he had Sweet Green. What's the ticker on that? SG. He had Sweet Green from like so long ago. So he's up huge on over 100% on that. I'm like, dude, you could, now maybe you don't want to sell all those things and take the gains. That's up to him. I mean, I think he had a lot of losses from last year, but so it'll offset. But because I forget what happened, but whatever, he's got a lot of losses in there. Like now he's making money. I'm like, dude, if you just stop playing games, because he's talking and he's asking me, I'm like, dude, I played those exact games 3-4 years ago, whenever it was. And in the beginning, I was good. I was doing good. I was making money, as everyone else kind of was, if the COVID era. And then the market turned. And when the market turned, the same things, the habits that I built did not serve me on the downside. I built really terrible habits for a bear market or for a choppy market. I built habits that made a lot of money in a really good, easy market, or a really super high momentum market, I guess is what I should say. But I didn't sure up the backside. And so I spent the next couple of years like making sure I managed my risk and all that stuff. But I missed out on a lot of money. I could have paid off half my student loans, you know what I mean, in one shot. And now, of course, hindsight looking back. But I thought I could keep making more, and then I would pay them all off in one shot. You know what I mean? Instead, I ended up losing most of that money. But I was telling them, if you just simply throw your money into SPY, IWM, QQQ, and DIA, okay, those 4 ETFs, as just a simplistic approach. And the reasoning why is because as you build 100 shares, the liquidity from the covered call selling could be pretty good. But you could even just go into a total market ETF, a VTI, VOO, whatever, and make it even simpler. If you just funnel your money, you're 21, if you funnel your money into that shit right now, because he's taking money in, he invests like half or more than his paycheck, and then the rest he lives off the tiny amount that's left. And I'm like, dude, if you just do that, by the time you are 31, you will be looking so fucking good in your portfolio, and it will probably be cash flowing you like substantial money from the dividends. And if you're selling covered calls, which, like you can learn that later on, and you can sell super conservative covered calls and make 2% per year on covered calls and 1% per year in dividend cash flow from the ETFs, because they all pay like a little bit more than 1%. SPY pays 1.2. You can be cash flowing at 3% per year And that cash flow might be a fat chunk of change that's allowing you to buy more of the shares, compound even faster, and you've got a massive snowball. So, like, while the shiny objects of these individual stocks sound really good, you could go that route. The chances are that you are going to eventually lose a lot of money on the backside whenever the backside comes, because you're building these habits now that will then not serve you in the backside or in the bear market, next bear market. And many times the impatience and whatever will end up making you lose more. Even though we tend to stick in bull markets longer than bear markets, you'll end up losing a lot more money in the bear markets than you made in the bull market. That's just historically speaking what ends up happening. I mean, we've all lived it. I mean, I lived it myself. So I'm like, you could be looking really good when you just do that. Now, of course, if you'll go through a bear market and SPY, QQQ, IWM, the Dow, all those, you'll do that. You'll go through that, but you can confidently continue to buy those in dollar cost average and not have to think about, oh, well, maybe because of whatever reason why we are in a bear market or a recession now, who knows, down the road, this company might go under. You know, you don't have to think about that. It's not a thought. It's not a worry. Oh, there's a competitor coming in now. SoFi is no longer going to be, you know, like, you don't have to think about those things. And many times thinking about those things ends up making you make decisions that end up not panning out well in the long run. So when you go the big picture ETF route, you could just sit back and that's it, and not have to worry about shit, and just keep funneling the money in. So that's, if anyone's in that situation, like that's what my recommendation is. At the same time, you're like, well, do I want to buy all the way up here? It doesn't matter. Just your dollar cost average, and if you're scared, then keep investing a piece, and then keep a chunk cash and build up that cash position over time, and you get paid decent interest, right? Rates are high enough. You're getting paid, a couple percent per year on the cash. So it's like, okay, well, now I have a decent incentive to hold some cash, and I have a little bit of reasoning to dollar cost average, and you can play that game too. But I think that's just the way to do it from that, perspective. Honestly, if I had to go back and, slap myself in the face back in 2021, what I should have done was take a large chunk of those gains and just locked it away in an ETF. You know what I mean? Like a VOO or something, lock it away, shut up, don't worry about it. It's here, and that's it. And that would have been up a lot since, obviously, but hindsight, right? Hindsight. Even if you did that at the top here from the peak of the market back in end of 2021, we're up an additional 21% from that high. So at a minimum, my that money would be up 20+%. Without doing shit for 2-3 years. Stash VT, VTI, VX, US, and DCA. Dividend growth or value factor funds. He wants to go deeper. No, yeah. He's like, the problem is that he's like shiny object syndrome. You know what I mean? And so you talk to him and he's like, okay, he makes sense. And then the next week he's on something else, he's watched a video and he's on something else. So that's the thing, but it is what it is. Better off just betting that money on the, no, I'm kidding. Better off just tossing that money into the election odds. By the way, 2.1 or almost $2.2 billion has been traded on Polymarket on the election. Crazy shit, right? That's freaking, that's crazy. That's actually insane. $2.2 billion. That's just so fucking crazy. Oh, man. All right, I'm going to wrap things up for today. I'm going to be back tomorrow morning. I'm going to try to do a run tomorrow morning. Second run back technically since the 50 miler. So knee was kind of messed up last Tuesday. I gave it another week. I did some sprints this weekend, believe it or not, but I did that barefoot on grass. I don't know. It sounds weird, but felt so good. So we'll see how a jog goes tomorrow. See if it feels good. But I'll see you tomorrow. Be back in action. The only position I have 3 positions. I've got a NVIDIA position. I've got a little silver action going on, and I got a little Bitcoin action, which, by the way, all of them are, Bitcoin's down, silver is about flat, and NVIDIA's up. So we'll see what happens. I have a recap to do on NVIDIA for today anyway.